26, and further certify that the ordinance has complied with all statutory publication requirements.
MC 2021-26 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 11, Personnel, Article 12, Separation from Service and Disciplinary Action, Section 1112, Layoff. It is hereby certified that the notice of the public hearing on this ordinance was published in the Courier News on July 23rd, 2021.
The floor is now open to any member of the public who would like to speak on this ordinance. Okay, Ms. Burwinkle, name and address for the record.
Hi, Mary Burwinkle, 1785 Sleepy Hollow Lane. I am disappointed that the mayor has resurrected this issue of cutting our governing body, the city council, out of the layoff process. You may recall that he raised this in March of 2019 and dropped it after public outcry about faulty reasoning for the change, among other things. The layoff ordinance has been on the books since 1969 and says at subsection A, whenever there is a lack of work or a lack of funds requiring a reduction in the number of employees in a department of city government, the required reduction shall be made in such job classification or classifications as the council may designate in consultation with the mayor. Both branches of government were meant to be involved by the plain language of the ordinance, which does not conflict with the charter, in my opinion. This is also, in my opinion, a power grab on the part of the mayor. If this passes, he can make layoff decisions without public notice or involvement of the public at council meetings. And I think everyone should keep in mind that this mayor was council president in 2013. The then mayor had tried to get this past the 2013 council. It is my opinion that he would have seen it as a power grab on her part and fought it. I hope the council will not give up an ordinance that honors separation of powers and public transparency this easily. Thank you.
Thank you. Cynthia Smith is next. Name and address for the record. Unmute yourself, Ms. Smith.
Start again. My name is Cynthia Smith. My address is 1431 Coolidge Street, Plainfield, New Jersey. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Plainfield Municipal Employees Association and not just a private citizen. I just want to kind of echo what Ms. Burwinkle had said, that this ordinance had come about 2 years ago in 2019. With the exception of 2 other council persons, all the other council members were present at that meeting. At that time, Council President Steve Hockaday, who was the vice president, he spoke in opposition of it, and so did our vice president, Very Good. I just don't see what happened from 2 years ago that tonight would have you guys sitting and changing your vote and changing your minds, because we brought an attorney to that meeting who was going to speak to this matter, that we paid money to do research. And with Plainfield having a special charter, the charter is put in place because they didn't want to follow what every other municipality had in place. But Plainfield is not, as it was said at the last meeting, the only town that does it this way. That is not true. I checked several towns and they do go before the city council before they do the layoffs, okay? So giving up your power just because someone says things like, because you're going to be too emotionally attached or involved, or in other words, like not having the guts to do it if you have to do a layoff. We went through 2 layoffs before where we lost a substantial amount of employees, and it was because the money was not there in the budget. So if you guys oversee the budget and you vote on matters that is presented to you to carry out that budget throughout that year, what is the problem now, or what is different from you looking at a layoff plan and seeing if it's viable or not, or seeing if it's another way that it can be done. Because in 2019, when they had put up for the dispatchers to be laid off, we did go to the city administrator at that time. We had several meetings with him, and we had worked it all out. But he refused to even want to work it out that way. And so that's why they didn't get to outsource the dispatchers. It's not because we didn't meet with them and have a proper dialogue and that we didn't come up with a good way of handling it. It was because the city just didn't want to do it. So to say that, the police need to go back and find another way to handle that. No, we had sat with them and they were going to be able to outsource. It's just that they didn't want to properly negotiate with the union, which is what it is that they should do. It should always be a dialogue back and forth. And City Council, you should keep that open, that you all are involved in that dialogue back and forth to make sure that services stay the same for the citizens of Plainfield, or close to it as possible. And that's the only thing I want to say tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Richard Wyatt, name and address for the record. Welcome.
Yes, Richard Wyatt, 826 Wadsworth Avenue. Good evening, Council President and esteemed council members. I would just like to come to you tonight. I know that we spoke before at the last meeting, and I spoke to some of you in person. And if you can just explain to the people why you feel as though that this change needs to be made. I know that we have a special charter that we have been operating with for many years. And so why a separation of power now? So if you can just eloquently, like you did the cannabis ordinance, if you could just explain to the people the reason that you see fit why this should be done. And if you believe that there's no vendetta, my question is, why now? Why are we doing this now if the city is thriving as much as we say that we do? And I completely understand that you want to have a working relationship with the administration and the mayor. That's how you get things done. But this one, I just do not understand. So I'm asking if you can just take time to explain to the residents here in Plainfield and the many employees why you would like to give up the power that you have, where the checks and balances are created for a reason. And we just skip over that and give it directly to the mayor. Not saying that the mayor would fumble this or you guys would fumble it, but we don't know who the next people in the future would be sitting in all of these seats. So if you could just explain, I would appreciate that. Thank you for your time, and I hope the council seriously considers the impact if this amendment is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Campbell, name and address for the record.
Yes, good evening. Wilma Campbell, 1404 Highland Avenue, Plainfield, New Jersey. Good evening, Council. I'm appealing to all of you, Joylette, Ashley, Mr. Hockaday, Very Good, Stacy Welch. I'm appealing to you on a level related to what is right, what is good for all of the people. I just, I reflect back to how things have gone full circle. I remember a time when our now current mayor was the CFO in Roselle. Everybody acknowledged he was doing a good job, but the political establishment wanted his job eliminated. That position was being filled by somebody who was doing supposedly a good job, but for political reasons, they wanted to remove him. That was wrong then, that's wrong now. Taking away people's employment destroys their dignity, their self-worth, their pride, and their independence. I believe that the city employees are doing a phenomenal job, and especially after just getting over COVID and all that went along with that. I'm appealing to you, council members, to consider the fact that these are people with families. You talk about efficiency. I remember during the political campaign that we just ended, primary, the mayor was talking about the job, he was the job creator. Now he wants to be the job eliminator. Think back on when your boots were in that saddle where people were coming after you for your job. And it wasn't right then, and it's not right now. I'm hoping that the council will consider voting no on this because it's wrong, it's bad government. I think it's very important for the mayor to have a check and balance system. And that is the role that the council should follow. So I'm appealing to you. I know many of you on an individual basis, and I think that you have the ability to do the right thing, and I hope that you will do that by voting no on this resolution tonight. Thank you. Political capital. Don't lose.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Ms. Dameron, name and address for the record.
Dolores Dameron, 127 Netherwood Avenue, Plainfield, New Jersey. Good evening, council. God bless each and every one of you. I just want to appeal to your humanity on tonight. Think about yourself and put yourselves in the shoes. We're in the middle of a pandemic right now, and for anyone to lose their job, to lose their home, to lose their resources, to lose anything is affecting not only them, but their family as well. So I really hope that you really reconsider and vote no on this, because we definitely do not want this pandemic to continue. We certainly do not want to hurt people and injure people. It's all about doing the right thing right now. And this pandemic is not over yet. And so maybe this can be considered somewhere in the future down the road. But please, let's think about other people and not just be selfish. Thank you so much, and you all have a great evening.
You do the same. Anyone else with their hand raised?
There's no one else. Oh, wait.
Real quick, Council President, can IT repeat the instructions for people that call in to raise their hand?
So if you have called in or dialed in with your cell phone, it should be *9 to use the hand raise feature.
Okay. Pastor?
Reese Wilkinson.
For the record.
Or Reese Wilkinson, 1420 Vivian Street, great city of Plainfield, New Jersey. Y'all know who I am. I know who y'all are. I have pretty decent relationships with some of you. And I would like to think that y'all have the decency and integrity not to let something like this pass. And I hope that political or personal retribution. And I hope that y'all exhibit extreme character and proceed with caution and not mess with people's livelihoods. This is wrong. This is truly undiplomatic. The mayor speaks about democracy, but this is not democracy right here. This ordinance seems more like dictatorship. And I will hope that y'all listen to what the people are saying, listen to public outcry, and do the right thing by the people and not do the right thing by someone who may be looking at things in a personal manner. That's my comment. That's all I got to say. I'm going to trust that y'all make the right decision on tonight. Y'all be blessed.
Okay. Kelly. Name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Kelly Newsome. I reside at 15102 Diamond Court in Watchung, New Jersey. I've been an employee for the city of Plainfield since 2001. And I really just I guess I'm just baffled that we are here again at this table discussing this. Back in 2019, when us losing our jobs were on the table, I thought this was already dealt with, and to see we're back here again. And I just don't understand why. You know, even through this pandemic, right, a lot of the city employees had the convenience of being home, you know, being safe, right? But we, the dispatchers and the police officers, we were feverishly working through the whole pandemic, right? Putting our lives at risk, right? We're going out to work, right? We're going to the risk, right? We're putting our lives at risk, going to work, right? When everybody else had the pleasure of being able to be home, right? But because we have a loyalty to the people, we didn't think twice about it. And I think it's mind-boggling of where you guys' loyalty to us is at. You know, you giving up your power to one person. You all took an individual oath to stand for the people and not just for one person. You know what I'm saying? Your loyalty should be to the people, not to just one person. And I just want to say, even though you may not be affected by this, think about if it was one of your immediate family members that was on the receiving end of, how would you feel about it? How would you feel if this was one of your family members having to worry if they're going to have a job tomorrow? I just hope you think wisely, you know, and think about the people and not just this one person. Thank you for this opportunity to have us on.
Thank you, Kelly. You have anyone else?
No, currently there's no one else with their hand raised. Oh, wait, just as I keep saying no.
Joel Mercado, 1018 West Front Street. Good evening, council members. I just want to reiterate what everyone else was saying, the importance of checks and balances, and I hope you guys keep that in mind when you guys vote today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mercado. Okay, seeing no additional members of the public, I have a motion to close public hearing on this ordinance.
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposition or abstentions? Okay, public hearing is now closed.
Council President?
Yes.
Could I speak for a second just to clarify some of the comments that were made and to answer some of the questions?
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate.
Okay. So in a couple of those comments, there was mention of imminent layoffs, or at least implication of imminent layoffs. So first off the bat, I just want to clarify that there is an MOU in place between the city and every union, every single union, that there will be no layoffs in 2021. So there are no imminent layoffs. I want to make that very clear, which is one of the reasons why we're bringing it at this time, because this is a time where there is no threat of layoffs. No layoffs are coming this year. You have our signature, 100% that document has gone through. The second thing is there have been a few comments about no checks and balances and one person making all of the decisions. So as the personnel director and the BA, I want to speak on that because that's certainly not the case. We are governed by the Civil Service Commission, and we do nothing without their approval. If this is to pass, what will happen is, if the day comes where for reasons of economy and efficiency, it makes sense for the city to do a layoff, the business administrator would write a layoff plan, and that goes to the Civil Service Commission. The plan has to completely lay out every dollar that will be saved, every reason that we're doing this. Civil Service Commission will take 30 days, and they will review that plan. They will decide, not the mayor, the Civil Service Commission will decide If yes, this is a legitimate plan that will save money and make sense for the city, or no, it doesn't. At that time, they'll send us a letter informing us, yes, go ahead, or no, don't. We then send a letter to employees notifying them, giving them 45 days notice of what is happening. Employees then have a right to appeal this with the Civil Service Commission. So there is an appeals process even after the checks and balances of the Civil Service Commission, making sure that this is taking place in good faith and everything is kosher. So then employees, even then, they can appeal. So I want to make sure everyone's aware that all of those checks and balances are in place, which is why most, not all, but most municipalities do not involve the governing body in a layoff because of the obvious conflict of interest. So that's why the civil service is there. Civil service is there to protect employees. And this is not giving the mayor full reign over layoffs by any means. There is no way to circumvent the civil service process. The second thing I want to mention is that most employees know that they have permanency with civil service, which provides them with bumping rights. There is no way to do a targeted layoff. I hear a lot of concerns about the word vendetta and last time the word retaliation. There is no way to do a targeted layoff plan. That does not exist. Employees have permanency in their titles, and the way that a layoff works is you cannot remove a permanent employee. First, you have to remove all of your provisional employees, and after that, then you can start with permanent employees and it goes by seniority. They can bump down into lower titles. There is no way to target anybody. So all of this, we are not the first municipality to face this problem, and civil service has been doing this for decades. They have all of these protections in place for employees. We're not getting rid of any of that. All we are doing is removing the council from the piece of the puzzle to remove this conflict of interest. And to speak to one of the comments about why at this time, the reason why is because at this time, there is no threat of layoffs. We have an MOU in place. We have an obligation not to do layoffs. So this is actually the right time to do it. And I hope that clarifies a lot of what people are confused about or not understanding. And David, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, I'd just like to mention there's been some talk of the charter and its role that it plays in this discussion. Section 3.5 of the charter lays out the responsibilities and authorities of the mayor. And it specifically gives the appointment and removal power to the mayor. It does not, nowhere within the charter is there any mention of a personnel function for the council, except it may remove individuals for cause. A layoff is not for cause. So the charter was very clear. It gave an authority to the council for removal, but only in a limited instance where it was for cause. So when we look at the charter, we see that the day-to-day functions fall squarely with the mayor. We see that the council has a legislative function. It has a budgetary function, which can also act as a check and balance against the administration. But what it doesn't have is any personnel function when it comes to removal not for cause, which would be a layoff. So the charter is clear that the personnel function of submitting a layoff plan to the state would be that of the mayor. And the most analogous case with regard to this issue was challenged in Hillside. Now, Hillside is a mayor-council form of government. And although we are a charter form of government, we are most akin to a strong mayor-council form of government. In that specific case, the court held that the personnel day-to-day function fell to the mayor, and the mayor did not need the council to submit a layoff plan. The mayor did not need to submit the layoff plan to the council prior to the submission to the Civil Service Commission. So if we look at our charter, we look at existing case law, what we are asking of the council today is in line with all of that. Happy to answer any questions. Thanks, Council President.
Thank you for the explanation, Councilor. All right. So, I know this is a hot, an important issue to me. So I'm also going to allow the council colleagues, if they'd like, to opine or give their perspective, if they wish. I'm scanning the screen to see who would like to speak, if anyone.
Council President, I have a question.
Yes.
So B.A. Levinson spoke of a conflict of interest by having the council involved in this process. So if she or Corporation Council kind of explain what the conflict of interest is my first question. And then my second question is, Corporation Council talks about the charter lining up with the ordinance and how something similar happened to Hillside, and the courts ruled that it was within the purview of the administration to do this. But with any ordinance or resolution, if this was illegal or not correct, wouldn't it be null and void when the charter was changed anyway? So why is it, if it's correct, we still have to go through this ordinance change? So those are just my two questions.
Abby, you want to take the first one? I'll take the second one.
Perfect.
Okay.
So the conflict is that it's hard for you to vote for a layoff that's going to impact your constituents. These are people that vote for you. These are people that, you know, you're not going to want to get up on the mic and vote yes to lay them off of their jobs. Those are votes for you. So by nature of the need for votes, it becomes a conflict.
Okay, so before you answer that second question, I think that would be with every decision that we make. It would be considered a conflict of interest in your example, because every decision we make affects residents, and every decision we make can possibly affect how people vote for us. So I just think that your argument, that's the nature of what we do as council people. No matter what decision we make, we run the risk that people won't agree with us, and we run the risk that if we run again for the election, they may not vote with us because of the decisions that we made. I don't think that is a valid point for why we should change this ordinance. But
you may not think it's valid, but it is human nature.
Could I also address that, Councilman Davis? What we have seen in prior layoff proposals to council is that when the administration has come forward with a comprehensive plan to save the taxpayers, at a council meeting, all we hear are the affected employees, and you don't hear from John Q. taxpayer when it comes to these issues. So it's very difficult to weigh the taxpayers' concerns when all you're hearing are the affected employees. And we've seen layoff plans that have saved the city millions of dollars not be adopted simply because of the human element of family members standing in front of the council. And that's of grave concern. Secondly, to your question on why this ordinance was not challenged. Hillside is a mayor-council form of government. I'm not saying that our ordinance is in itself, on its face, illegal. What I'm saying is that if you look at our charter, it is more appropriate that it is more appropriate that the function of layoff belong to the mayor and not be a councilmanic function, just by reading the charter on its face. And I use the Hillside case for what we call not binding authority, but persuasive authority. It gives us a sense of what the law ought to be. So I'm not saying that if it was on its face as legal, we wouldn't even be here having this conversation. But if we look at our charter and we look appropriately as where does this responsibility appropriately lie, our charter gives us clear guidance. Our charter tells us that unless it's for cause, the removal power belongs to the mayor in our form of government.
Thank you.
Council President?
Yes, Councilman.
So I just, I want to touch on Ms. Levinson's comment about the conflict of interest, because everything we do has a conflict of interest, as Councilwoman Davis said. And to say that human nature gets in the way of certain things, they get in the way of a lot of things. So that on its face is just, more of an emotional comment to add some sort of additional element to this that's just non-existent. I mean, there are individuals on this panel who have voted to raise fees. There are people on this panel who have voted to increase salaries for individuals and cost taxpayers money. So, we do things all the time facing the public and catch their ire when we vote for redevelopment plans and pilots. I mean, if you don't think that isn't something that gets into the taxpayers' pockets, then, you got to be kidding. So, that on its face is ridiculous. And I think that Mr. Mincello's point that this is not illegal, which is why when he answered Ms. Davis that it hasn't been changed automatically on its face because it's not illegal. This is something that was done in 1969. It's been in place for a long time. There have been successful layoff plans that have gone through this process. There have been unsuccessful ones. I think one of the really important things that when we do this is that we have some transparency to the public. This is not a very transparent administration. So with the administration having to present it to council and review and explain how services are going to continue with layoffs, et cetera, that's very important. The services are the most important thing to the residents. And those are the complaints we hear about all the time is the issues with services. So it's important for the council in kind of an oversight role. We have various committees with different, areas of the city government that we're on. And I think it's important that we're aware of what's going to change, what the plan is, how functions will be taken over by existing personnel or eliminated or handled through technology or whatever it is to make sure that we don't have any blips in the process. I think it is extremely important to keep the conflict, by the way, that Ms. Levinson said, the mayor gets elected too. So he would have a conflict as well because he's making these decisions himself. I think when you put the council and the mayor in it together, one, they can own the whole process if it goes through. They can also deal with any lawsuits that come as a result, instead of having the council having to approve any possible settlements or costs incurred for something that they didn't have any involvement in. Additionally, there is no a government body that gives up any authority that it has. It just doesn't happen. And I think for this council to give up that authority that's been in place since 1969 and has had multiple layoff proposals come through and resulting both actual layoffs and then being declined. I think this is a problem looking for us. This is a solution looking for a problem. This isn't a thing, and I think that it protects the citizens with the services, making sure that we're watching and making sure that the services continue. It protects their tax dollars from any settlements, legal fees, etc. And I think, quite honestly, it protects the mayor as well because the council would be on board with it if one were approved. So I think if the issue is that this should not be allowed and we want to use the hillside thing, then the mayor should probably take the council to court and go that way, and we'll hire our own attorney. I honestly think that Mr. Mincello's having to, unfortunately, kind of serve two bosses here because he is the counsel to the city council and he's the counsel to the administration, can't really serve both well with this issue. And I think that any attorney that was representing just the council would say, you don't give up authority that you have. I think additionally, for example, the municipality tends to take authorities that they don't have. For example, a good number of people on this panel have city cars that have not been approved to use, which comes from the council, in 4+ years. So they take privileges on their own that are authorities that are granted to this body. So I think that any council member on here that votes to give up this authority just on that basic premise that you don't give up authority that you have would be a fool, absolute fool. And I think that any legislator in the country would be mind-boggled at the fact that you would give up an authority. Absolutely mind-boggling.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other council members wish to speak on the ordinance? I don't see any. I'll give my thoughts on what I see here. The conflict of interest, like Councilwoman Davis and Councilman McCray, I agree that we all will have to make decisions that.
That's McKenna.
Who did I say? Davis and who else?
McCray.
McCray. Okay. McKenna. Thanks for the correction. We all make decisions that are difficult and would cost us votes. So, that kind of is what it is, and it's part and parcel with the job. But there were some points that I thought were compelling made by our counselor. Certainly one with the charter, placing the administration functions with the mayor. Also, in terms of what our BA indicated, the protections of the Civil Service Board, the procedure that's outlined there where the employees do have a process where they could appeal if they felt like they were improperly targeted or specifically targeted. Although she also spoke at length about how it's extremely difficult to target individuals when it comes to a layoff plan. And I'm aware that that part of this seems to stem from fear of individuals that there could be retaliation from an election. That it pretty much is what it is. I can tell that is a cloud over this entire issue. But knowing that specific individuals cannot be targeted is something that is important for me, because I wouldn't be wanting to take part in any retaliation after an election. But it's important that that's in place. But I also think that the I won't call it. I thought the point regarding the taxpayers versus affected employees is something that's worth talking about. Is worth serious consideration as well, because there will be instances where taxpayers could save a tremendous amount, but affected employees are able to use the council meeting to perhaps sway council members or not regarding their position and not save the city money. So, I could understand that argument. And just to address Mr. Wyatt, he said, what's changed now? This is a different situation. Because there isn't a layoff imminent, it does make it easier for me to vote for this change at this time. To be candid, when there was the layoff of a proposed layoff, as well as giving up our power, and I heard from the members of the dispatch, and amongst them were single mothers and being raised by a single mother, and hearing that single mothers could lose their jobs. That's something that would always pull at my heartstrings, and there's no way I could have. That if it was my choice, that I could have voted for something like that. That just because of that human element. But that was then. And now we're in a different circumstance. I've heard more about the protection that employees have, and also that there's a memorandum in place that there be no layoffs in 2021. It just presents a different scenario, So for me, that's why I thought at least that this ordinance deserved to be placed on the agenda. As council president, I recognize that I'm responsible whether something even makes it to this point, and I thought it's important that we hear from the community, from our council members, from the administration regarding this issue, and in deliberating one way or the other. I think that it's something that a discussion in public forum would be useful and important. Okay, so we've closed public hearing. So I am now going to ask for a motion to adopt this ordinance on second reading and final passage, and if adopted, shall be published as required by law.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, clerk, can I have a roll call?
Councilmembers Davis,
No.
Councilman McKenna,
No.
Councilman McCray,
Rule number 1, yes.
Councilwoman Mills Ransom,
Yes.
Councilwoman Welch,
Yes.
Vice President Good. Can't hear you on mute.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Council President Hockaday.
Yes.
5 in favor, 2 opposed. MC 2021-26 has been adopted on second reading and final passage.
Thank you. Clerk, please read MC 20.